Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about pigs, and they're one of my most exciting animals. They are dirty, they are caged, but they have an ever-loving, gentle personality, and they provide us a very delicious product.
Okay, JacQui, do you keep girl pigs or boy pigs?
Well, we actually raise females only, and we call them sows. We want them to be impregnated, of course. And for that reason, we do have a boy come around once in a while. We're not in the practice of raising the boys. What I prefer to do is upon birth, I will wean them at the appropriate age, and then we take them to the sale. You will often hear farmers say the meat from a hog is not near as good as the meat from a sow as far as flavor is concerned. I'm not sure that I personally have found that to be true, but as a rule, I am geared towards all the females of the animal kingdom. It's just my preference in raising them, whereas other farmers don't care. I bring a boar in. I let them mate with the females, and then I will take the boar out and take him back to the auction for sale. So I use the boy strictly for stud services, and when I find that I have gotten a really good stud and the babies that are being born from that sow as a result of that stud, I will keep him around for a second breeding if I've gotten really quality product. And when I say quality product, what I'm looking for are an average size piglet being born, meaning they're all pretty much the same size, and that they are born alive, and that they all survive that first week, and that they're born healthy.
And do you keep a specific breed of hogs?
Yes, we are geared towards the Berkshire hog. The Berkshire actually has a really long bloodline, been around forever, and I actually believe it started in England. And the reason I particularly like the Berkshire, it is a really lean meat. Not to mention, they have a really docile personality for the most part. I did have one sow that was kind of mean. Well, she really doesn't like me, but it's because I was trying to load her to take her to the butcher shop, and she's been around long enough to know that when you go out, you never come back. And that was the only Berkshire hog that I've ever had such difficulty with as far as personality goes. But you'll find that you can go right inside the pen with them. So not only are they a really docile, friendly animal, they throw off some really beautiful colors, pinks and grays and browns and blacks. So, I mean, it's always nice to have a good-looking stock. They're a really short, stocky animal. Their legs are a little short, but they can get up to be 600 pounds. Now, I don't really like waiting that long to butcher them, but the sow I'm particularly speaking about, which I'm sure you'll get to see a picture of her, she got to be about 600 pounds. And I've recently weaned her piglets about 2 weeks ago. And she throws really beautiful babies. But because she has gotten such a bad attitude and gotten very aggressive, even when I go back there to feed or to go in and check the piglets, she tries to attack me. So sadly, she has to go to the butcher shop. But as a rule, the Berkshire, it's a very lean, very tasty pork. It's definitely worth trying it and doing a comparison with maybe another store-bought product that you're used to eating.
And when did you start raising pigs?
Oh, well, first of all, I started raising pigs against my better judgment. Pigs are extremely destructive, and if they get out, they do not corral easy. They could care less if you have a bucket of feed. A cow, a chicken, a goat, you can get them to follow you anywhere with a few rocks and a bucket. But a hog, they are extremely smart animal. They don't fall for that trick at all. And because they are actually fed both grains, and we give them all of our inedible eggs, ones that had cracks, or had a discoloration, or they just weren't appropriate for retail sales, we put them in a bucket and we give those to the hogs. So the hogs are so spoiled that you can't trick them in with a bucket. They root, and particularly the males, which will grow the tusks, you actually have to put a ring in there, which is another reason why I don't want to raise males, because of the tusks, which can be dangerous, and because they are destructive, and because they can hurt you, and because I find it a cruel practice to put that ring in their nose. It's a very, like your nose, it's a very tender area, which is why it's done. And although it doesn't hurt them, it hurts them when they touch it to something. And I just don't like that practice. So it's another reason I don't raise the boys.
How many pigs do you generally keep at a time?
I try to never have more than 6 grown pigs at a time. So right now I probably have about a dozen, but out of that dozen, 8 of them are piglets still. And I won't worry about their growth until they get to be maybe about 100 pounds, at which time I will remove the boys and take them to the sale when I can get a fair price for them. Always remembering that although I don't keep the boys, you can't sell them too young. They might not make it, but then you have feed costs involved. So once you have some money tied up into them, it only makes sense to keep them to a weight at which you can at least make back what you've invested.
So at what point do you sometimes need to go purchase new pigs?
Well, I had a sow a few months back, and all she was producing was males, and which is why I didn't reuse that particular male stud that I had. So when I have a sow that is producing more males than females, it's time for her to go. Again, because I want the female gender of the hog world, that all comes into the breeding line and what that particular hog throws, which is a term that we say what she gives birth to.
And when you purchase new pigs, where do you purchase them from?
We have purchased our hogs from several different areas. I have visited a couple auctions, one in Mannheim, Pennsylvania that we go to. Then there's also one in Felton, Delaware that we've gone to. And then also we know some farmers around here who raise hogs. And when we hear of a good bloodline, in other words, a good stud, we will go seek out that animal and sometimes pay more than the average cost to guarantee, a better quality piglet.
So here on the farm, who raises the pigs? The mama pigs, or does someone in the farm bottle feed them?
Well, a healthy sow can give up to 12, 15 piglets in one birth. And that's a handful. And sadly, 1 or 2 of those may not make it because they are weak and they can't fight for the nipple. However, I have a couple ladies that work with us who, like me, are animal lovers, and they have in the past actually taken the runts home and bottle fed them and then brought them back.
So what do the pigs eat?
Well, pigs will pretty much eat anything you feed them. It's against the law to feed them dead chicken, so never get caught doing that, which would be a terrible practice anyway. They are meat eaters, they are carnivorous, so you can give them just about any scraps. But the fact of the matter is, if you want a pig to put on weight, you feed them carbs. No different than a human. And the practice years ago used to be you would go to your local donut store or Schmidt Bread, you'd roll up there with your pickup truck, and all their seconds or out of dates you could get for free. They'd load you up because they had nowhere to take them, and they're not allowed to give that to people, so they would give it to farmers. And unfortunately, what happened was some farmers took advantage of that practice, and then they turned around and started selling that product instead of feeding it to their animals, which was intended. So in the case of our hogs, they get all of our inedible eggs, and I say inedible only in the fact that they probably have a crack in them. They get all leftovers from the house that I won't feed my chickens. And then we also give them a bucket of grain, and it's actually the same grains that my chickens and my ducks get. So they're also receiving diatomaceous earth in their diet, which helps to keep a very healthy gut. And so we very rarely have ever had an issue with illness with our hogs for that fact alone. And you have to think about how a hog lives. He rolls in poop. That is what he loves to do, or what she loves to do. And so when you think about the bacteria behind that, you know, and the health factors involved, you need a healthy hog with a lot of stamina, because the last thing you want is your hogs to get sick. And the last thing you want is a hog to pass and you're not aware of that fact, because the other hogs are carnivorous. So, you know, a steward of one's farm doesn't go days without seeing its animals. A good steward, a good farmer, they're going to be walking their farm several times a day, every day. You know, and if it's not me personally out there doing it, the ladies that work with me, the lady in my office, even my IT lady, Dana, that's with me today, will say, JacQui, you know, I saw, you know, something out in the field, maybe you should go take a look at it. So it's not just my eyes, but it's everybody's eyes on the farm. And we're always constantly looking for the slightest thing. It could be a limp in a back leg, and that could be something as simple as a spur or a thorn. Or a broken wing, or, you know, whatever the case is. Everyone on this farm are always eyes wide open.
So what kind of barn do the pigs live in?
Well, interestingly enough, they don't actually live in a barn, and I would love for them to have more access to free ranging, but again, as I've told you, they're very destructive. They will literally dig all the posts up. In fact, I had a pet pig that got to be about 500 pounds, and she literally took the quarter panel of my truck off because she was scratching her back on it. So some lessons learned are, although they're docile and loving, they're big, and they are farm animals. And sometimes that's hard for me to keep in the forefront that, yes, this is a farm, and all these animals, although I love them and they are pets to me, at the end of the day, they are farm animals, and I have to treat them as such. And so where the hogs are concerned, I have them in a two-sided building that does have a roof, and on the rear of it, it has about a 3.5-foot wooden wall, and on the front of it, it's just a fence, and which is the side that I would load them from, or, you know, when I buy new ones, put them in on that end. And what that does is it allows a constant fresh air flow through there, which is important. The airflow is what keeps the floor dry, and the dry floor is what keeps my hogs healthy. Now in the summertime, we will let them flood an area, and then they can wallow in that, you know, pigs in mud, which is what pigs are famous for. But in the wintertime, that does not need to occur. And so I'm getting ready to rework some of that building, and when I do that, I'm actually going to let my hogs free range for a couple days. So they will actually be out on open pasture in the fenced-in area where my chickens normally free range. But during that time, I will keep my chickens locked up on the front side of the property, because believe it or not, a chicken will walk right up to a pig like it's its best friend, and unfortunately, that pig will reach down and eat that chicken before it knows what happens.
So how big are the pigs when you butcher them, and how long does it take to get there?
Well, I work with a Mennonite family all the way in Dover, and so that's about an hour-and-a-half ride. In fact, tomorrow, Wednesdays is butcher day for the hogs, and so tomorrow morning I'll be leaving earlier with the large hog that doesn't like me, and it'll take me about an hour and a half to get there. I will have to unload her myself, and put her in a stall and sign her in with the appropriate questionnaire that they have. And then it'll be 2 weeks of processing, because I like to get what I provide for my customers smoked. I do smoked ham steaks and the smoked bacon, and that is a 2 to 3 week process, depending how many other farmers have brought animals up there. So generally speaking, I drop off today. It'll be 2 weeks before I can pick up my fresh packages, and they will be branded with our name, and they will be shrink wrapped for air tightness, and everything is done via USDA regulations.
How much meat comes from a hog?
Well, of course, size determines that. But when I did barbecue hogs this summer for customers over in DC who wanted to have pig roasts, I did about 100 to 120 pound hogs and had them split bilaterally into 2 halves, and dressed. Each of those halves was about 40 to 45 pounds. So you lose about 10 to 15 pounds in a smaller hog from cleaning it. And a very large hog, like the one that is out there now, the 600 pound sow that I'm getting ready to butcher, I'm actually going to turn her into all sausage and scrapple. And out of that, I will probably get, gosh, I'm going to say 300 pounds, individual pound packages, but it's because of the type of meat that I'm doing. When you do bacon, which is a very fine product, obviously there's only a certain amount of that per piglet, which is why it's always more expensive. That cuts back then on your overall poundage that you're going to get. When you do specialty products like that, then you're losing some of the trimmings and stuff that you could put in scrapple or that you could put in sausage. And because our hogs are lean, there's no fat weight and there's no water weight. So when you buy a pound of meat, it is meat, and there's no filler involved. So, for me, I like to raise my hogs. When I'm going to do a full butcher, I like to raise them to no more than 500 pounds, really. And when I'm going to do barbecue hogs, I think the perfect hog is about 100 to 120 pounds.